welcome to Safe Space Talk. We are doing episode for
Kingston's
Kingston.
birth, my baby.
So we're gonna
The
light
youngest.
our little ceremonial candle for everybody going through life right now, because life is life, and as one of my cousins have said to me, and I've just learned to take that phrase. So if you're going through anything, we're sending you all
extra
the good
encouragement.
vibes, all the encouragement. You can do it. You're worth it. You can be successful.
There are great days ahead. Just stick around.
Yes, you are valid. So let's hear about
baby boy, sweet brother Kingston. Sweet brother Kingston, as we call him at home.
I call him Mr. Still Your Girl, and he answers to it. By the time he was getting ready to leave the house, I was like, "Hey, Mr. Still Your Girl." He's like,
"Yes, that's me."
That's me.
He now if I say give me a kiss, he just leans his forehead because no, he's not gonna kiss you, but he'll give you top of his head.
I shall grant you
access to my forehead. Yep. So Kingston was actually, we call him our vasectomy baby. He wasn't, I guess, truly in those terms of vasectomy baby, but we had decided after Indigo we were not going to have any more. And so through the VA, socialized medicine, again, there are long wait times. So we had waited about 6 months plus for my boyfriend to be able to get his vasectomy. So I've always been able to track my cycle. I'm very, very regular. I know when I'm ovulating. I know when I'm not, and therefore have not had to use birth control in like, I don't know, 7 years plus. And I'm just blessed to be one of those very regular people, and therefore have never really had scares because I can feel when I'm ovulating. I know my body signs. It's kind of like, okay. So leading up to that, he's only 16 months, so this is post COVID. I had gotten my COVID booster for work, and honestly, now in retrospect, you can see the studies that are coming out of how COVID vaccines affect your cycle. Well, at that point in time, there wasn't really a lot of that information out. So, and the first time around, I did the same thing, but I hadn't put 2 and 2 together. So for me, when I got my COVID vaccine and then subsequent booster, it kept on delaying my cycle by just a few days each month, just like 3 or 4 days each month, 3 or 4 days each month. But your cycle tracker doesn't always account for that. It'll try to average what's been in the past. So it'll still tell you your days based off of average versus these few days of change. So
now there's probably a little on the apps. There's probably a little COVID button.
Yeah. Oh my God, they need to. They need to. Yeah. There was like so many articles after I looked it up, and I was like, well, this is a phenomenon. Nobody's talking about this.
Nobody's talking about it, but the women that do speak out and say they feel like it's responding to that because they're just noticing it. The backlash they get,
that's not true.
What it is. They've done millions of dollars of research, and it's like, chill, bro.
I'm just telling you what happened to me.
Yes, I'm not saying that it's not valid. I'm saying that since I was exposed to this, my cycles have changed.
Yeah, either heavier or whatever. Yeah. So mine started with delay. So for about 3 months, they kept on doing this 3-day delay, 3-day delay, 3-day delay. And so we planned a trip out of town. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not ovulating. Great. Ovulated the week prior. We in the clear. I can act up. I did on his birthday. We went out, had a great time, went to the strip club, and turned all the way up. And the next day, as we're coming home, we get to the house, and I feel ovulation pain, and I'm like, oh my God, no!
But
like
ovulated the week before.
That's what I thought. That's what the cycle tracker said. But because of the 3-day, but the 3-day delay, 3-day delay, 3-day delay had made it to where it was about a week and a half later than I had anticipated it being.
I thought you meant whenever you said you had ovulated.
No,
you felt it too. Mm-mm. You were only going by the app.
I was going by the app, and so I felt the ovulation pain, and it was immediate, like, oh my God. And then I was still trying to rationalize, okay, well, it's only 20% chance of every cycle of you getting pregnant. So, what if, and it's too late to take the Plan B at this point because you've already ovulated. Plan B, by the way, does not work if you've already ovulated. There is, what is it, Estella, yes, there we go. Ella. That one will kind of put a stop to ovulation. But if Plan B, if you've already ovulated, it will not stop. And in fact, it won't do anything for you. So I was like, okay, no point in taking a plan B. Let's just face the music when the time comes. So I wait my time, the day that my period's supposed to come. I go to the dollar store, go ahead and give me one of those dollar tests. And as my toddler, who was 18 months at the time still, was like wreaking havoc on my bathroom and like tossing cat food everywhere, I took the test and I put it on the counter and kind of was just like, all right. And so I go to like pick her up and lift her up and get her to wash her hands from cat food everywhere. It just like pops up pregnant. And I just like turn around and set her back down and it was like, oh my God. So then I, took a picture and I Snapchatted it to him and he was at work and I'm like waiting and I waited all of 30 seconds before I called him. I'm like, did you see your Snapchat? And he was like, no. And I was like, check your Snapchat. So then he opens and he starts laughing. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, there's nothing funny
There's
about
nothing
this.
funny
Like,
about this, but
'cause
he's thinking
I
you're
think,
joking.
yeah, no,
I know
well,
him.
he
That's the
was
first thing
thinking,
he's
he was
thinking.
like, what else? Like, what are we gonna do about it now? Like, it is what it is, and that's kind of his personality and his way through life. And
Okay.
I'm just thinking in my head, I have problems with breastfeeding. I have problems with postpartum depression, and I had thought that I was past that stage of my life and we were moving on, and I was excited to move on to the no longer having baby stage. So it would just all came crashing down that like, do I want to do this over again? Do I want to reset my life 3 years back and have to do all these stages over again? So I'm crying and I'm like, I don't think he realizes. No, I don't think men realize it. Like we, all of a
Yes.
sudden,
All of a sudden, we're planning.
yeah, it hits
We're
us.
we're already saying
Yeah,
now this person has to share a
yeah,
room. We've been
yes,
pregnant now.
yes.
We know we were
We need a
pregnant
new
for
car.
45
Yeah, we need a new
minutes.
car. We need this. Yeah, we need to move
Now this
now.
means these two kids have to share a
Yeah,
room in
well,
order
we
for
were in
us
a
to do
two-bedroom
this or
apartment with
that.
four of us already, so there was no way. So now I'm like,
Oh,
okay, now we have to purchase a house faster. And I had just started a brand new job, my first midwifery job. I was a month in, and so I was like, great, how is this gonna go? So we had went back and forth, like, do we keep baby? And in my head, I'm all for pro-choice, but for me personally, I was like, every baby I've had, I've loved extremely, and I know I will feel the same way eventually. So that was just my, on good faith, I'm gonna go ahead and do this pregnancy. I'm not excited about it. I'm not happy about it, which is not what people want to hear. Are you excited when you're pregnant? Are you happy?
yeah.
No,
Aren't
I'm
you
not.
thrilled?
No,
No.
no. I know what's happening. The sleepless nights. I know everything that's in store for me, and I did not want to do it again. So,
That's one
excuse
of my
me.
passions are undesired pregnancies
Yeah.
because they are typically so preventable.
Mhm.
Typically so preventable, and it's the education thing. Now, obviously, yours was a
Yeah, you
horse
would
of a
think. Yeah,
different
you would
color.
think. And so the day I had took him in for his vasectomy, I had found out like 2 days prior to that I was pregnant. So I'm wheeling him in and I'm like, I'm not picking you back up until everything is tied, snipped, burnt. Like, don't come back out here at all until you are fully complete. And he, like, dude, and they're all asking, well, do you guys want to postpone? Just no, what? Do it. So by the time I'm halfway through the pregnancy, he should be in the clear and shooting blanks. Um, so I kind of kept it a secret a little bit, didn't really tell people at work, but of
You
course,
sure did.
my hyperemesis
You
kicks in
hussy.
strong and like,
That's what you get. Because you should have called me.
I called Tiffany because Tiffany was the one who kept wishing a baby on me, and I was like, I'm not gonna have another baby.
That's what Tiffany be wishing it on. But Tiffany be making, she's a prophet. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, that woman is a
So
prophet.
yeah, so by the time I hit six
She on
weeks,
the
I
payroll.
I snuck into triage and told her like, I want to make sure. I don't think there's nothing in here. You have to convince me. And then she's like, oh, it's a little flicker, and I'm like, or it could be nothing. And she was like, no, that's like right on the dot, on the nose from when you said, your cycle was put. Nope, it could be nothing. And like, so they get a doctor,
It's
and then
gas.
yeah,
It's
the
gas.
doctor's like, no, can you add some like. It also could be nothing, right? And she's like, no, it's something. I'm like, all right, okay, okay. So I'm having to face it. I'm working at a new job. I'm like commuting an hour each way. I'm sick as a dog all day, every day. I ended up in that pregnancy being so sick, throwing up in between deliveries, running out. It was just miserable. Doing 72-hour call in a place where you can't be at home. You're in the hospital. You don't want to tell people you're sick. You don't want to tell people you're pregnant, so it just looks like you're being a bitch the whole time because you're exhausted. You don't none of the shenanigans that they got going on. You just
You
like,
are
let
not
me
a part
sleep
of it.
and let me not smell whatever the fuck y'all got at that pizza party going. Like, I'm just,
Close the
Yeah,
windows and the
I
doors.
had 3 different meds on board to regulate my, vomiting, and I still threw up at least 2 or 3 times a day, like, religiously every morning as soon as I woke up. And everyone's like, "Oh, why?" And I'm like, "I don't know why, like, this is just how my body responds."
Respond.
But
But
because
now you know why as a midwife.
yeah,
Why
but
you
yeah,
build a ton
yeah,
of
progesterone. Yeah,
progesterone,
I'm one of those progesterone heavy people.
mhm,
And so
which is good for keeping
yes,
pregnancies.
yes,
So
it is.
you're definitely a pregnancy keeper. You
Oh
probably haven't
yeah.
had a lot of experience with
Yeah,
loss,
yeah,
but
no, not
you're a
one,
keeper.
not one. I sometimes feel guilty about that because I don't have that to share with my patients, but at the same time, because you always feel here 1 in 4 pregnancies and then
Mhm.
loss, and you always feel like, well, this is my fourth one. It should be my time to take a loss. So that's my mindset the whole time was like, it should be my. I don't want to get attached. I don't
Yeah,
want
because the
because
statistics tell you
that this one should be
this
a
is you're not
goner.
gonna make it.
Yeah. So go through the pregnancy. It was kind of miserable. I had worked with a lot of people I didn't like, a lot of uncompassionate people. I ended up having like a kidney stone at 20 weeks, and got a write up for missing work for it. It was just one of those where I'm just trying to get through it. I'm just trying to make it
Mhm.
through. And since I had gotten pregnant in the very beginning of January, end of December time frame, it was a summer pregnancy,
Mhm.
so he was born in September. So I had to make it all through
Oh,
the summer with
and
this.
it's hot
Yeah, yes, it was very
here.
hot. So we get through. I'm working with people that aren't very nice or don't have my best interest in. So you already feel vulnerable when you're pregnant. So then on top of that, feeling like you have to constantly watch your back and people are trying to manipulate your choices and your emotions against you, as you're kind of like. So after all this, I ended up with gestational hypertension. I was actually at work. I had my OB visit with one of the midwives when I was at work. They did my blood pressure and it was like 140 over like 90, and I was like, that's not right. I've never had high blood pressure a day in my life. Like I said, I'll come back in 4 hours because you need 4 hours in between blood pressures to diagnose this.
To
So I
diagnose
was
it.
like, we're not doing anything before then anyway. I'll come back and I'm not gonna tell anybody I'm gonna take it. I'm just gonna come in here, do it myself so I can be at peace and I can. It was even higher the second time around. So I was like, well, damn. So I tell and I this was a Saturday night and I tell my midwife, hey, my second blood pressure was even higher. And she goes, okay, so we have to talk about induction now. You are 38 weeks. And he by far everybody's telling me, oh, he's such a small baby. They did a ultrasound saying he was 5 pounds. And I'm like, there's no way. I've carried several babies and this by far feels like the largest one. Either that or I'm tripping. Like this,
Nope.
yeah, this belly was
Studies
huge,
show
out of
that
control.
women who have
Yeah,
had babies
out of
before are more
control.
reliable than an
Uterus,
ultrasound.
yeah, uterus
It
knows what it's
is.
doing, feeding
Mhm.
that baby. Like I'm not eating nothing, but it's feeding everything I got.
Exactly.
So we talk and she's like, okay, so 39 weeks or whatever is induction time frame. And I'm like, okay. She's like, yours aren't super high, we can push it to then. So then after that, she comes back maybe 30 minutes later and said, there's nothing open for 39 weeks. You have Wednesday, which was 3 days or 4 days from then. And I was like, okay. So now I'm like, all right, I gotta wrap my mind around that. And then so we're like, okay, Wednesday. So I start, telling my family and getting my affairs in order and worked up until the last day. And then the following day, I get a text, hey, where are you? From labor and delivery from some of the girls. And I'm like, I'm not supposed to be induced till Wednesday. They said, no, they have you on the books for tomorrow or today, Tuesday. And I was like, they told me Wednesday.
Mhm.
And so then I get a text from the manager like, "You're actually on the books twice, but you're actually supposed to be here today." So I was like, I wasn't
Well,
prepared. This was my day
well,
off.
I
I
ain't
was yeah,
coming.
no, yeah,
I ain't
right.
coming.
Yeah. So the whole day I'm going to the chiropractor, I'm getting errands done. I'm like,
Mhm.
this was my day to get my life together. I've had 4 days to get, the idea of
Yes.
like now your baby's gonna be here today.
Today, yeah.
So I was like 14 hours late to my induction. Don't do this, people.
Yeah.
Showed up 14
I
hours
feel like
late.
we've said that a lot during our
Yeah.
pregnancy story.
Don't do what we do.
Do not do what we
Do as we say, not as we do. I showed up 14 hours late to my induction, and at that point in time, I was like, I don't know, 2 centimeters already. So they said, hey, let's just go ahead and start you on pitocin and see what happens. So it's 9 p.m. They start pitocin. This is my first induction. This is just all different for me. I wanted to do maybe I was contemplating doing a home birth. It was because I live so far from the hospital, so it was just kind of like, okay. And I always said if I had to do an induction, I probably will get an epidural because induction is such a different ball game. Like it's not my own body regulating. This is someone regulating on a pump. So I get in, they start the Pitocin, I sleep through the night. I wake up and it's maxed out and nothing's happening. So now I start panicking because I'm like,
I'm gonna fail
"Ooh,
the induction. I'm
yeah,
gonna
I
fail
don't
the
want to be a
induction.
failure."
I'm
Like,
gonna get a C-section.
yes, yes, all the things because we know
Yeah.
how it starts to snowball.
Mhm.
And I'm for 5 hours sitting there maxed out, and I'm walking. I'm not feeling anything, and I'm having a good steady contraction pattern, not feeling a thing. And I think at this point you had come on,
Mhm.
and I was still contracting like regularly, but didn't feel. I'm walking like don't
Mhm.
feel any of it, and I'm like, okay, so now I know what this means. I know we have to break water. Like this is the next step, logically for me in my mind. And I had made it to maybe like 5 centimeters at that point in time, but still was like, I don't feel these. Like
Mhm.
I'm
That was
chilling.
me. I'm
Yeah.
too comfortable. I'm
Yeah.
too comfortable.
So
On pit.
yeah. So and then we talked a little bit. We did some positions. I know you and me
Mhm.
were doing like positions and stuff like that, in and out the shower, and then I ended up getting my water broke, and
I was gonna
then
say because I remember you feeling things before your water broke
it did. I
because P
did.
kept saying, "Is it time for the trap music? Is it time for the trap music?" And I was like, "P, it's not time. It's not time."
I think it started. It started like maybe like an hour before my water
I think
broke. It
the
started feeling like
positions
it
you
was.
started doing.
Yeah, it was like this is uncomfortable, but this is not my
Yeah.
max yet.
Mhm.
Like okay, I'm starting to feel like whew. So then we break water, and then of course it like transitions over very quickly to where I'm like, oh, my butt's about to fall off. So the whole time I'm just like, it's all in my hips again, not in my stomach, all in my hips, all in my butt. I'm like, ah. So at that point in time, I just was like, you know what? I didn't want this baby. I love him, but I did not want this baby. I did not want this pregnancy. I did not want this birth. I did not want this induction. And at this point, I don't necessarily care to do this unmedicated. Like I've done unmedicated and I've felt like I've conquered, but there's nothing for me to feel like I have to conquer at this point in
Mhm.
time. Like I don't want to feel pushing. I like it's kind of like you get a extra bonus game or something thrown at you, and you're like, I don't really care if I win this game or not. Like I just want to be
Mhm.
done with
I
it.
just want to be done with the
Yeah.
game.
So that was kind of my mindset, and I don't regret it getting epidural. I ended up getting it. Well, no, it was like
Girl,
seven
I
centimeters.
remember because I will never forget what you said. Katie was like, "She doesn't want an epidural," and I said, "I know, but she emotionally wants an epidural,
Hmm.
and I'm going to have to get it." So she's like,
Oh yeah,
"Let
because
me go."
you were delaying. You and her were both delaying, and
So,
P's over there looking like she didn't ask for it like 3 times.
and
Like,
so she said, "Let me go talk to her." So she goes tramp down. I'm like, "Go ahead." I'm sitting there like, because you will get the same answer I got. And she goes tramping down there, and I remember her trying to, tell you, and
let's just
your
wait 3 contractions. Let's
your
just do this.
exact response was, well, I mean, obviously, I don't have a choice, and that was whenever I tapped out. I said, "And we're done."
Hmm.
Once you said, I will never forget the fact that you looked at her. You said, "Well, it's not like I have a choice." That was the final thing. That's the one thing I remember from your labor. I'll never forget that and the trap music.
Nah, Lord.
Those two things I'll never forget. And once you said you didn't have a choice, I said, "We are not in charge of her birth." And where was that
And
anesthetist
he, yeah, and
here?
I said I don't want no students, and he sure left came in so fast, and I was
Mhm.
like not ready because I was still butt naked, and this is my
Yeah.
coworker by the way, so I'm just like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm naked right
Yeah.
now,
Once you
like
said that, he was coming up in there. I ain't care if he had more clothes or not. Truth be told.
So I get the epidural, and literally I like, okay, I'm just gonna take a nap. I just like want to sleep until it's time to push, and like went to go lay down, and like 15 minutes later, like his heart rate is kind of starting to do some funny things, and I'm like,
Mhm.
I feel it, I feel the feeling, and I'm like, I have to push, don't I? It's time, yeah. And you were like, I'm
I can't.
sorry, you're not gonna get your nap. You over here on the side, but like at a safe distance. I'm sorry, you're not gonna be able to get your nap. I think we might have to start pushing. And I'm like, God damn it! Like
I
I
remember
can't do nothing right in this labor.
because I felt so bad because you were worse than me with my 37 minutes of relief.
It was like what, like
It was
15,
like
20
I didn't
minutes.
even get a chance to walk out of the room. I was still catching up my charting. Went to go step out of the room, looked up, and I was like,
Yeah, yeah,
and
he's
I was like,
coming.
Keisha.
Yeah, yeah. And I was like, I felt it. I'm just sitting there like laying back, like trying to take a nap, but I feel it. I know what's going on. I've
I
done
was
this
like,
before.
so we're having some
Yeah,
dips.
yeah. And so ended up pushing. I still felt a great amount of pressure and pushing through, but it wasn't that sharp pain. So it took away just enough pain. Like that's all I wanted. I just didn't want that sharp ring of fire pain. And he ended up coming out, and he was my heaviest yet. He was 8'1" at 38 weeks, which is way bigger. Like the last one was 6 pounds at 39 weeks.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, you say you pushed the longest with him.
Yes.
Remember,
Well, with
I had you
Malachi pushed for a
pushing.
long time, but I pushed for like 40
Yes.
minutes, and I was just like, something is.
No, and I told you, I said he is in a weird position. And we had
Yeah.
you pushing. I remember one time I had you pushing like I had you pushing like
I
this or something
had,
like
yeah,
that.
I
It
was
was the
doing all the
weirdest,
things,
and
all
I
the
had you
things.
looking
Yes.
all around.
Yeah, and it just felt like
That's how you know you didn't have a dense up girl too. Because I mean, I had you crouching tiger, hidden
it
dragon
just
up
felt
in
like I
there.
wasn't making progress, and it was a very unfamiliar feeling for me because usually I'm one of those people who, when I push, I can feel like the abs contract. I can feel the
That
things
descent.
moving, yeah, and I can feel where I need to push and what needs to happen and how I need to alter. And I had
You
no,
couldn't do that with
yeah,
that girl.
I couldn't. And so he comes out, and it was pretty easy, a little recovery. But at that point in time, I already knew with my breast milk, like we're gonna have to supplement as I normally do. Turns out he had a tongue tie, so we had to have that one clipped as well. He um he was miserable with that. And then when he finally got it done, because it took so long to get his done, we went on vacation, and it was ended up getting postponed to the point where it got done like 2 days before the vacation I was supposed to go
Oh,
on. So now I'm having to
Lord.
teach this sitter, which was his grandmother, how to do it. So old grannies don't want to.
Yeah, they're not gonna
Yeah,
do it.
so his ended up, reattaching, and when we took him back, they had to like reopen it, and he was just miserable. Like anytime he would try to breastfeed and open his mouth, he was just like screaming. Like he would try to latch and then be like, "What is that? That hurts so bad," and he would just be like screaming. So I ended up only breastfeeding for like 4 months with him, and then one day he just refused to latch. Like one day to the next, I'm like trying to latch, and he's turning his head every which way, doesn't want it, doesn't want it. Takes the bottle fine, will not get on the breast, not for comfort, not for sleep, which is so weird. And that's how our breastfeeding, it was very abrupt, one or the next. Well, thank God I didn't have an oversupply because, I was struggling to keep up with any kind of
Anything,
supply. So it
yeah.
was easy for me. Within a week, my milk was gone. And that was nice on one end, but it was just like, dang, like what happened? Like what went different than
Well,
all of
the
a
4
sudden?
months, kudos.
Yeah, yeah.
4 minutes, 4 seconds, 4 months,
Four
4
drops.
days. I don't
Yeah.
give it.
Yeah,
Good
so,
job, but that
but
is
yeah,
abrupt,
yeah,
especially to self wean.
yeah, and that's
That
how
is
Indigo
very,
was too at 10 months. At 10
yeah.
months, one day she was
You
just
just have very strong minded kids. Like they
turning her
just wake up
head.
one day, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna breastfeed anymore.
Yes. And it's like I'm over here struggling and sad and like I wasn't ready. I thought we were gonna still have
Have
this for
more
a while. Yeah,
time.
like breastfeeding to sleep and all this stuff, and they're both just like, nope,
Nope, I'm
done.
good.
Yep. And thank God
You
at
give it
that.
back to daddy.
Yeah, I have no need for
He'll
this
take it.
anymore. Yep.
He'll take it.
So that was Kingston, my biggest, fattest, heaviest baby, and the most, I guess, unusual of mine. Mostly all pretty textbook, except for that one. So at the end, I was on I was on Reglan. I was on Zofran, and I had a scopolamine patch just to be able to not throw up, and that lasted even throughout some of the
Isn't it?
postpartum time.
Isn't it? How did you feel on those meds?
I was fine. Everybody was telling me that the scopolamine is going to take you out. You're going to be. I felt better than I had in months. I was like, I had anemia that pregnancy. I never had anemia before because I couldn't fucking eat anything. Winded going everywhere. Toting a big ass 8 pound. When they told me he was a 5 pound baby, and the ultrasound, I see his wrist go across the screen. It has fat
Fat
rolls,
rolls
and
on
I
it.
was like, that's not a 5 pound baby.
Well, remember,
Y'all are liars.
the ultrasound the day before my induction, my baby was 5 pounds, and they came out 7'11".
So keep that in mind. Ultrasounds on third trimester are very, very off, like a pound and a half, which is huge when you're talking about a baby.
A baby.
And then right after that, it just kicked right back into postpartum depression because we had to move out of the house when he was like 2 weeks old into the house that I had been purchasing for over a year that had kept on getting delayed.
Delayed. It was right after
Yeah, it was
we
like
were ending the pandemic.
yeah,
It
so
was
we had
like,
no supplies. So it was supposed to be
yes,
done in like
no
March of that.
cars,
Yeah.
lumber supplies. Everything was in that.
It's stagnant.
Everything was on that one ship that was supposed to be coming. Remember that? And then all the ships couldn't come past because of some kind of a law.
And then they didn't have no workers. Yeah, so the house was supposed to have been done in spring or early or late winter of that year of 2022, and it didn't get done until 2 weeks after he was born, so in October. I think October 1st or like September 30th or something like that is when we moved in the house. So now I'm having to move with a newborn and 3 other kids. That set me up. All of a sudden, my short-term disability is no longer recognized at my job because I had told them they stressed me out so much that I wasn't going to stay there full time anymore. So they pulled that from me. And even though I told them I didn't want that transition to happen until after my maternity leave, they still pulled my so I got no pay.
No way.
I got no money. I was waiting on a check. I got no money throughout the whole maternity leave. And then so moving into this new house, I was like, okay, well maybe if I get a home nanny and a sitter, I can kind of get some semblance about my life and get this house together and feel like something is going right. Well, she was just not a great sitter. She was very passive, couldn't control the kids. Pierre was working at home, so she's trying to keep him quiet. I couldn't really leave the room because my toddler, every time I would leave the room, so I was trapped in my own room all day anytime she was there. So it just started snowballing into worse and worse mental health. And then so after about 10 weeks, I was like, well, I'm not really going to get what I wanted out of this maternity leave. I had a UTI after that ended up needing to be treated like 3 different times. I had like an allergic reaction to the meds, had to go to the urgent care to get a shot for it. So it was, and I just bled and bled and bled and bled the entire like 6 weeks, which has never happened before. So I was just really like, I'm losing it. Like this is, I've never had, yeah, it just all was just like off. Like this is not how I do postpartum. This is not how I give birth. This is not how I do pregnancy.
Yeah.
So I just felt like I had been like I stiffed a little bit. The last go around was like, and so I just had to keep on reflecting. Like you've had so many other great births and so many great experiences. Like what can you take from this? So then it just kept on getting progressively worse. Me and like Pierre would be like fighting all the time. And it ended up actually that March afterwards, so about 6 months after that, was so sleep deprived after about 3 days of not sleeping. I went back to work already, attempted suicide at that point in time, got committed to a psych ward for 6 days. They diagnosed me with postpartum depression slash psychosis, whatever. I felt like I was always in my present. I didn't want to hurt anybody else. I just wanted to not have to deal with everything anymore. Yeah. So my biggest mental health advocate for afterward, take the meds, take the therapy, take the counseling, do all of it, do what you need to do to survive because no one else is surviving without you. And that's my big takeaway from him. Like he was really the one that because it started off as unwanted, and I still had to, even though I loved my baby, still had to now deal with like, okay, now we're starting over. Like I have to do this baby phase. I have to do the wake ups again. I have to do the breastfeeding. I have to do, and no, breastfeeding is not easy for me, so I have to do all the supplements to try to get my supply up and take. I ordered medicines from India off a black market pharmacy to try to get my milk supply up, and all the things, and it was just kind of like I thought I was done with this. So having to like get myself back up and muster to go back into the battlefield was just mentally taxing. And I still feel like till this day he's 16, 17 months, something like that. And I still feel to this day that he sometimes gets the short end of the stick because I am just tired of this phase of parenting. Like I wanted to be done with it. My 3-year-old is like to the point where she can get herself dressed and undressed, and she's potty trained, and she can get herself little snacks and stuff. And although he's not far behind her because he's trying to do everything big sister is trying to do, it still like I wanted to be able to come home and watch a movie on the couch. And at this point in my life, not be like, "Where's the baby? Oh, he's in the cat toilet," or like So I feel like sometimes I have to tell myself slow down and enjoy him being small because then I look at my oldest 14-year-old and I'm like looking at his big ass hairy feet and like they used to be this small just like how he was, and he used to come up, Kingston will still come up and like pet on me and like come and give me hugs and your mom and all that stuff. So I'm trying to be in that state of just enjoying this stage of his life because I know it will be gone and soon he will also be a big hairy man with big feet and smells bad and all the things. So not probably this storybook ending that most people want for their
It is the perfect storybook ending.
but that's the real ending. And
Yeah.
so that's the real ending for y'all.